A meditation about birthdays. The concept comes from Timothy Stunt, and this is a recreation. What would happen to our society if we gave gifts on our birthday instead of receiving them? First, we would be getting presents throughout the year. The poor fellow who was born on or near Christmas often gets only one really good gift a year. Anyone under this new regime of giving on one's birthday would discover that we'd be receiving gifts throughout the year. Second, I'm sure we would see the day in a different way. Our birthday would be a day of thanksgiving, of reflection. More preparation would be required. What thought does it take to simply receive presents? However, if we are entrusted with the celebration of the day ourselves, we will have to put a lot of thought into each gift that we would give to our loved ones. The day, in fact, would turn into a way of interacting and strengthening the relationships that we particularly value. In the moments that follow and throughout the day, let's think about this simple proposal. What would happen to our society if we gave gifts on our birthday instead of receiving them? The second meditation concerns Milgram. In 1984, I was studying psychology in university, and the name Stanley Milgram came up. This guy had done a horrible thing, subjecting people to a psychological test without their awareness. I realized that I had heard of this character. Timothy Stunt had spoken about the Milgram experiment in 1975 or thereabouts. Here's what I recall him saying. A scientist in a white coat asks you to help him in a teaching experiment. There is an electric wire running from a box on a table, and you are asked to twist a knob to apply an electric charge that runs through the wire to the ankles of a subject. The learner is being trained in learning a language, and the idea is to shock the student whenever there is an incorrect response. The scientist is there to observe and guide you, and you are told you are helping test the equipment and the procedure. The student makes an error, and the scientist asks you to turn the dial to 1 and press the button once briefly. The student jerks, then gives the correct response. The student continues to make some errors, and after each error, the scientist asks you to administer slightly stronger shocks until, to your surprise, the guy in the white coat asks you to dial in 9, which is labeled dangerous. There is a higher spot on the dial, number 10, which is labeled do not exceed this level. What would you do? Remember, the student is screaming by now since you just applied the 8 level of pain. The scientist urges you to press 9 because it is essential that the student learn this information. What would you do? Well, it turns out the wires were not connected to an electric current, and the student was an actor. You were the test subject. The procedure in the experiment has been banned because the assistant, you, was so distraught that they had applied a high level of pain in pursuit of education, that they underwent some psychological counseling themselves. It turned out that perfectly upright citizens will often press that button if asked to by a guy in a white lab coat. This story also came to mind for me because I walked into a charter school in Fort Lauderdale, and there was a loud buzzing noise. The noise was penetrating the walls of a classroom, and so I went into that classroom to find out what was this strange buzzing noise. Up against the wall were 12 students, all facing the wall, nothing in their hands, just seated. And one of the teachers walked up to me and said, "Hey, look at this great new way we're using to handle detentions." This annoying buzz was filling the room. And the assistant principal told me outside, we went outside to discuss this, it is just what they used on Noriega down in Panama, tried to get him to come out of his compound by playing annoying, loud music. Well, we're just taking it to the next level and making it very annoying. So then these students will think twice before ever coming to repeating what they did. This is the next level of detention. And he turned around and went back in and blissfully continued his application of this loud noise. I was shocked. I would certainly have not wanted to. This was somebody I respected. This was someone who had half of the school under his control as assistant principal. And the fact that he had agreed to do this reminded me very much of Mr. Stunt's meditation on Stanley Milgram. Mr. Stunt concluded, "Is it so hard to put ourselves in the shoes of Germans during the 1930s? Would we have pressed against cultural and peer pressure to stand up for oppressed peoples in the German Republic? I wonder."